Good morning, grandkids. I'm ready to read you the next chapter in our story about the young wizard Dorkly in a land far, far away. This is chapter 43. The Majors, Stephen and Candace Murdoch, had changed out of their uniforms and had dressed in casual street clothes and were wandering the market and looking out for William. Once they spotted him, they wandered on past him and stopped at a stall close enough to him to hear if he started speaking with anyone. He was just standing there with his hands in his pockets, gazing without much interest at some odd wooden carvings. The Majors turned to one another. "Doesn't look like he's interested in anything," Candace said. "Nah, he's waiting for someone," Stephen said, looking back down at some rings. "Hey, Candace, you like this ring here?" She smiled but said, "Keep your mind on the job, dear. I've got plenty of rings that I never wear," she mumbled as she turned away, moving a little bit closer to William. Stephen glanced over in time to see a woman in long brown pants, boots, and a very short haircut coming up. She's walking up in William's direction. He reached out and plucked Candace's on the sleeve. "Isn't that the woman that's been seen following them?" "Sure is," Candace said as she picked up a mirror off the cart and started examining a pair of earrings, holding them up to her ears as she was glancing sideways at William. The woman sidled up close to William. He glanced over at her and then casually turned back to the merchant's wares. Candace noticed that she was very pretty, with bright green eyes, in spite of her mannish clothes. "Probably a disguise," she whispered to Stephen. Then they heard William say, "Any trouble finding me, Gert?" "Stop calling me that," she snapped. "Well, with those pants and short hair, I'm not calling you sweetie." He gave her a wink. The Majors looked at each other and snickered and moved on to another merchandise table. This one was piled with warm scarves and cloaks. As chilly as it was getting, they thought about purchasing something. Then Stephen heard William saying something to Gert about Othello. "Othello is pregnant. It's starting to sound like there's something wrong, and she's being more sick than usual." And he glanced at Gert and winked. "Are you still giving her?" And their voices dwindled away as they moved farther down the market. The Majors frowned at each other, walked around the table they were rummaging in, and followed after them. They found them a couple of tables down in the crowd, in time to hear a few disjointed words like baby, kingship, and saw a few intimate smiles, all in secret tones and looks. Both quite worried by now, agreed to go on up the market and find Bonester, wondering if they were lovers, family, or what. When they caught up with Bonester, Stephen said, "Hey, Bone, we picked up a few tidbits." The Major turned and says, "Knock it off, Stephen, with that bone grab." He turned, and he and Stephen and Candace started off toward the palace doors. They met Major Farthington coming toward them, and the group paused, exchanging information. While talking with the king about William, I was wondering some things about him from back on the mainland. The king thinks that he might have someone go back and check him out at some point. Interested in case we need you and some of your men? Major Farthington asked them. Sure. I'm sorry. I think I made a mistake. Oh. Major Farthington is talking to Bonester, who had just walked up. Sure, Major Bonester replied. Anywhere, anytime. Right now, we need to get back to the king with a report and check on him to see if we have enough guards around. They then took off in a group up to the palace doors. After Bonester, the Majors Murdochs and Major Farthington unloaded what little they had learned to the king, Conley was walking around, wringing his hands, worried scowls coming and going across his face. Finally, he says, "You can all be dismissed for now. Does anyone know if Dorkly's back yet?" There were only head shakes, and Conley went on. "When he returns, send him to my personal apartment. Someone else go and ask my lady Inez if she will come to me for tea. Don't let her come over here alone either." "Well, my love," Inez said as she walked in, "glad you sent for me. I was missing you." Conley got up and drew her close, kissing her. "I'm always missing you," he whispered. He noticed her lovely violet-colored dress with colorful flowers embroidered here and there across the fabric. "You look like a day in springtime, my dear. Sit down and let's have some lunch together. There's something serious we need to discuss." Inez sat down at the table as a servant set out a few dishes for them and poured them each a glass of wine. "So, what's going on? I've noticed way more guards around lately." The king started talking as they ate and sipped their wine. "That's just it. There's something strange going on, and I have Major Bonester and others working on it for now. And all these extra guards are to make sure that we are kept safe. I want you to move in here with me now, before we have the wedding. I can't take care of things when I worry about your safety. I would love to have you right here with me, where I'll know you're as safe as can be, where I can see you." And he smiled. "Will you do that for me?" "Of course I will, Conley. But what's going on?" she says with a frown. As the king started telling her about William and the strange woman, Dorkly came rushing in, delivered by a guard. "Sorry, I got here as quickly as I could," he said, glancing at Inez with a dip of his head and a smile, wondering whether he should speak out or not. "It's okay, Dorkly. I was letting Lady Inez know about what's going on," Conley said. "Since no one else is coming up with information for me about what's going on with William, I want you to do your wizardly thing and get me something to work with, okay?" "Yes, my king, I can definitely do that. I haven't found out much, just nosing around in town." And Dorkly gave a dimpled grin. "Use your scrying or whatever you have to do to bring me back something of substance, something to help me deal with this and get some closure," the king grumbled. "You got it," Dorkly said and hurried back out the door. He hurried back to his spire and down the stairs. Below, he hurried across the room, scattering papers and other... Wow! He stopped to stare. There's even a cracked potion bottle on the floor. I gotta clean this place up one of these days. And he moved on. He continued to his work table, pulling several ingredients from shelves as he passed by them. At the table, he looked over what he had gathered. Don't need scrying. This is going to be a close-up job. I need to see and hear, but not be seen or heard. Since no one else can seem to get this done, I guess it's totally up to me. And I know just the thing I need. Invisibility. So we'll leave it there until the next time I come back and see what Dorkly is coming up with. I'm sure if he makes him some invisibility potions, he can go spy on William and hear much more stuff than what all these other characters have done. Will depend on Dorkly. So I will see you all next time. Bye-bye, grandkids.